Hare Krishna, a very warm welcome to all the devotees to our class on Srimad Bhagavatam study. In this class, we are now discussing the second canto, and in the second canto, our journey has now reached to the ninth chapter. And today, we are going to discuss verses from 26th to the 32nd verse. Overall, this is our 78th class, and the chapter is title of the chapter is Answer by Citing Lord's Version. Now, why this title? Because in the previous chapter, that is chapter number 8, the dialogue between Shukdev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj has been mentioned, and Parikshit Maharaj has presented a long list of questions before Shukdev Goswami, and Shukdev Goswami is now preparing to answer Parikshit Maharaj's questions. And the way he answered is by giving reference to another conversation that had happened in the past. And Shukdev Goswami says that some questions that you have asked me actually have been asked or discussed in a conversation between Lord Brahma and the Supreme Lord himself. So he's answering those questions by citing another conversation between Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu. So that is why the title is Answering by Citing Lord's Version. That is how the title has come about. And now we will continue our discussion on this theme of the ninth chapter. We are about to start the discussion on Chatushloki Bhagavatam, although we will not be able to do Chatushloki Bhagavatam in today's class. But before that, there are some very important verses where the questions are asked about Chatushloki, and some other few verses which are introducing the Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses. So good to hear those. But before that, we do our regular Mangalacharan and the summary of the previous class. So I will request Manish ji to do the Mangalacharan. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Ji Manish.
Om
Yeah.
Ajnanaतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपं कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवां च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथां वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सह गणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी श्रीराधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयन् उदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Very nicely chanted. Now we come to the class number 77, our previous class. We will do the recap of this class. And for this, I would like to invite Rakesh Gargji from Meerut to kindly take us to the recap of the previous class. Rakesh Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Bhagavatam class summary on 26 January 2025. Canto 2, Chapter 9. Brahmaji's darshan of Vaikuntha, and Lord Vishnu asked Brahmaji to ask for benediction. As we have studied in the last class, that Lord Brahma has been doing penances for 1000 celestial years, a very long period. And Sri Prabhupada in his purport said that this tapa is actually devotional service. And because of this, Brahmaji had darshan of Vaikuntha. So in this section, from verse number 9 to 18, a very enchanting description of Vaikuntha is given. Verse number 9. The Lord, being satisfied with the penance of Lord Brahma, was pleased to show Brahmaji his personal abode Vaikuntha. In the purport, Prabhupada says that the personal abodes of the Lord, known as Vaikuntha, are neither mythical nor material. But realizations of these is possible only through devotional service. There is undoubtedly trouble in executing penance, but the trouble accepted in executing bhakti yoga is transcendental happiness from the very beginning, whereas the trouble of penance in Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, etc., without any Vaikuntha realization ends in trouble only. Just as there is no profit in beating husks without grains, similarly, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than bhakti yoga for self-realization. Verse number 11 and verse number 10. In that personal abode of the Lord, the material modes of ignorance and passion do not prevail, nor is there any influence of mode of goodness. Also, there is no predominance of influence of time. So, what to speak of Maya that cannot enter that region? In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that in the transcendental realm, there is no creation and no destruction, and thus the duration of life is eternal unlimitedly. In other words, everything in the transcendental world is everlasting, full of knowledge and bliss without deterioration. The influence of time is conspicuous by its absence. The inhabitants of the Vaikuntha planets are all Brahmbhut living entities. The kingdom of God or atmosphere of the Vaikuntha nature, which is called Tripad Vibhuti, is 3 times bigger than the material universe. There is the spiritual sky also. The marginal line between the material manifestation and spiritual manifestation is the Virja river, which is the transcendental current flowing from the perspiration of the Lord. This abode of the Lord is Shuddha Sattva, full of pastimes and without decay. It is never subject to destruction. It is beyond measure and devoid of material consciousness. There the sun, moon, and fire do not shine. Having gone to the supreme abode of the Lord, one does not return. Verse number 11 and 12. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha planets have a glowing sky bluish complexion. Their eyes resemble lotus flowers. Their dress is yellowish color. They are just the age of growing youth, and all have 4 hands, and they all appear to be effulgent. Some of them are effulgent like coral and diamonds in complexion and have garlands on their heads. Verse number 13. The Vaikuntha planets are also surrounded by various airplanes. These airplanes belong to the great devotees of the Lord. The ladies are as beautiful as lightning because of their celestial complexion, and all these combined together appear just like the sky, decorated with both clouds and lightning. In the purport, Prabhupada says that the airplanes may not be driven machines, and these airplanes are of the same quality as Brahman. Everything there is of the same nature of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. Verse number 14. There Lakshmi Devi is engaged in loving service of the Lord's lotus feet and in singing the glory of the Lord's activities. Verse number 15. Brahmaji saw the Lord in Vaikuntha, who was surrounded by his immediate associates, like Nanda, Sunanda, Prabhala, and Arana, and all were engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. Verse number 16. The Lord had a smiling face with an enchanting red hue. He was dressed in a yellow robe and wore earrings and helmet on his head. He had 4 hands, and his chest was marked with the lines of the goddess of fortune. Verse number 17. The Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada tells about these energies. The 4 energies of the Lord are defined as Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatattva, and ego, that is Ahankar. The 16th energies are defined as the 5 elements: earth, water, air, fire, and sky, the 10 sense organs, 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas, and the mind. And the 5 means the form, taste, smell, sound, and touch. And then the 6 natural opulences means Yash, Aishwarya, Bal, Gyan, Shri, and Vairagya. And insignificant energy means like Ashiddhis. And no one of these is equal or more powerful than the Lord. Verse 18. Brahmaji, thus seeing the Lord in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart and in full transcendental love and ecstasy. His eyes filled with tears of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the highest perfection for the living being, Paramhamsa state. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for the Paramhamsas, the persons completely free from malice. The Paramhamsa stage of life can be attained only by those who are fixed in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. This Bhakti Yoga begins if the person has the firm conviction that simply discharging devotional service to the Lord in full transcendental love, one can elevate him to highest perfectional stage of life. So, any person can attain the same perfection as Brahmaji by following the path of Paramahamsa. For this, firstly, one should, with all the conviction, believe in Lord Krishna. One should hear about him from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And one should hear these from a Bhagavat only, who is a pure devotee of the Lord and not a professional. Lord Brahma also in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14.3 says to Krishna that a devotee who engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu and who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life can conquer your mercy even though you are Ajit, unconquerable. Verse number 19 and 20. Lord was pleased with Brahma, and seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings and shook hands with Brahma and said, I am very much pleased with your penance, with the desire for creation. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the living entities who are ever conditioned are given a chance for liberation under the guidance of Lord's own representative like Brahma. And Brahma is doing it perfectly through his Brahm Sampradaya. And any member of the Sampradaya is naturally engaged in reclaiming fallen souls back to Godhead. And anyone preaching the mission of the Lord in the line of Brahm Sampradaya is always very dear to the Lord. Verse number 21 and 22. Lord says to Brahma, O Brahma, you may ask me all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction as a result of all penances is to see me by realization and the personal perception of my abodes. Verse number 23. Lord says that such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. And as Prabhuji told in the class that Brahmaji did not want the power of creation for his own empowerment, but he wanted to do it because he wanted to please the Lord. So one who is ready to do anything to please the Lord can achieve the highest perfection, and that is the darshan of the Lord. Such a level of surrender requires a very high level of purity, and Brahmaji had that kind of purity, and that pleased the Lord very much. Verse number 24. Lord says that I create this cosmos by such penance and maintain it by same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potency is penance only. In the purport, Prabhupada says that in executing penance, one must be determined to return home back to Godhead and must decide to undergo all types of tribulations for that end. An easygoing life and attainment of perfection and transcendental realization cannot go together. To know what penance we must undergo, we must check with our spiritual master and follow his instructions sincerely. Verse number 25. Now Brahmaji glorifies the Lord and says, O personality of Godhead, you are situated in every living entity's heart as the same as the Supreme Director, and therefore you are aware of all endeavors by your superior intelligence. In the purport, Prabhupada says that the Lord is present in the heart of every living being. He knows what is in the mind of each living entity, and no one can do anything without the knowledge of the Lord within. By superior intelligence, the Lord gives everyone the chance to fulfill his desires to the fullest extent, and the resultant reaction is also averted by the Lord. Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Okay.
कमी रह गई हो, गलती हो गई हो तो क्षमा कीजिएगा। बहुत वाइड,
uh,
इतना अच्छा सब्जेक्ट था, मेरे को बड़ा आनंद आया प्रभुजी मेरे प्रिपेयर।
okay, thank you very much, Rakesh ji. Or the words that you spoke in the end, that you really enjoyed the subject matter. Actually, that is the whole purpose of delegating this part of doing the recap to the devotees. The idea is, my expectation, I will mention to everyone, what do I expect when devotee do the recap. So when the devotees are given this task or service of doing the recap, they need to listen to the class, they need to read the purports, and in my opinion, the ideal recap is something which the devotee actually presents in her or in his own words. Yeah. So I can easily see how much hard work Rakesh ji has done. He has listed all the verses, and for all the verses, he has read the purport, important points from the purport of the Prabhupada, and sometimes also referring to some of the points that were raised or mentioned in the class. That is really, really a lot of work. I can easily see so much of work that he has put in. He has done this tapasya, like Brahmaji did this tapasya. So Rakesh ji also did that tapasya. And by doing
थैंक
that
यू
tapasya,
प्रभुजी।
Rakesh ji got the fruit of that tapasya. He said that he enjoyed it very much. Right, Prabhu? That's what you felt, isn't it?
यस प्रभुजी,
So you are
पर्टिकुलरली दिस क्लास।
particularly this class, yes, correct. And you specifically uh, confirmed that by hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. hmm, So far, you have been doing the hearing. Most of the time, the devotees in the class do the hearing, I do the speaking. And but when they get the opportunity for speaking also, they think they find that they get a deeper realization and a even more bliss, even more happiness. Correct, Prabhu? Is that your experience?
यस प्रभुजी, यस
Okay.
एग्जैक्टली।
Now, if you want to repeat that experience, you have to do it again. You have to do it more, isn't it, Prabhu?
यस प्रभुजी।
Okay. Now, that is for all of the devotees who are assembled in this class. Maybe you have already have that experience, and in case you don't have it, you can learn it from Rakesh ji's realization. Only one feedback I would like to give to Rakesh ji. and that is, if possible, I mean, what you are doing is certainly very great, very nice work, very nice effort, service, but try to do it in your own words. Hmm. So read it and try to come up with the explanation in your own words. And when you will do it in your own words, your feeling, your emotions will come out. Hmm. So in today's summary, you are primarily doing the reading and quoting Srila Prabhupada's statements directly from the purport. So
Yes, Prabhu.
when you do that, I mean, certainly Prabhupada's purports are very nice, full of transcendence, and they are also very beneficial. But when you do it in your own words, in your own realization, in your own language, what did you feel about it? What did you learn about it? Then the message goes across very nicely to the audience. So that is my humble small feedback to you for further developing your speaking skills in for future any other assignment like this. And this is something like giving you a practice so that you can start your own classes, you can start your own channel, you can start your own Facebook podcast or whatever. So that is how you need to take it. And ultimately, why are we supposed to do this? So that we become Krishna conscious. So you became Krishna conscious, that is why you felt that bliss of presenting the class. So thank you very much. I hope that was,
Thank you, Prabhu. I will try
yeah,
next
thank you.
time.
Okay, yes, okay. So now we go to the subject matter of class today. uh, we'll give you a little briefing of where we are. Now we have done till 25th verse, huh? So first verse till 25th verse of 1, 2, 3, 4. Four sections we have already covered. So as we know that chapter 8, some long list of questions Parikshit Maharaj had asked, and Shukdev Goswami is answering all those questions. And he's giving the reference of Brahmaji and Lord Vishnu's conversation. And it starts by Brahmaji having the darshan of Vaikuntha, because Brahmaji did the penance, which is explained as devotional service. And as a result of that devotional service, he get this result of that penance. Lord was very happy. He gave the darshan of the Vaikuntha. He gave his own darshan. And 19 to 25 was uh, sorry, from 9th verse to 25th verse, there is a lot of description of the Vaikuntha planets, very enchanting description which is so enchanting that it actually arouses our own desire to be at this place. And Prabhupada mentioned that if we want to really go to this place, we need to do devotional service. So that is the way we can go there. And then Lord uh, asked Brahmaji that he can ask some benediction, some favor. So because that is where we left our previous class, where Brahmaji is asked by the Lord to ask for some benedictions. Now Brahmaji, the benediction asked by Brahmaji is in the form of knowledge. Brahmaji wants that knowledge of the Lord, and that is why he asks questions to the Lord. And those questions are described in verse number 26 to verse number 30. And in order to answer those questions, uh, verse number 31 to 39 are spoken by Lord himself. And specifically verse 33, 34, 35, and 36. They are the four verses which are kind of Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Chatushloki Bhagavatam means four seed verses. The original Bhagavatam that was spoken by the Lord was in the form of four seed verses. And these are known as Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So today we are not going to discuss Chatushloki Bhagavatam because a lot more needs to be discussed before we come to those Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So today we are going to discuss from 26th till 32nd verse. Chatushloki Bhagavatam starts from 33 to 36. So I think a whole class will be needed, a full dedicated class will be needed to cover all the points from 33 to 36. But before that, how do we reach to that 33rd verse? How that the 33rd verse is spoken by the Lord? We will discuss those verses in today's class. So an important part of this second canto is this Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So need to be a little more attentive here, just so that you can understand the context and meaning of these verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam much better. So we'll start the class today. And so here, I think this is from the previous class. Okay. We go to the 26th verse. Yeah. So here Brahmaji is asking those questions. So we request, I think today there are not lot of text, only I think 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Only 7 verses. So maybe 1 or 2 devotees should be good enough for reading the text. Anyone would like to volunteer?
I can come, Prabhu, I can do.
I
Okay.
can also do.
Okay, so we have Charumati ji and Vrindavaneshwari. So we give to Charumati Mataji. Would you like to do it?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, we will keep you for the next class because today is not a lot of verses.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So Manish ji, please read the text.
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah. Brahma's first question. In spite of that, my Lord, I am praying to you to kindly fulfill my desire. May I please be informed how, in spite of your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all.
Yeah. Okay. So Brahmaji has been asked by the Lord, please ask for some benedictions. Now the Brahmaji is asking 4 questions here, and the first question he asks starts from the verse number 26. So he's saying to kindly fulfill my desire. And what is his desire? How in spite your transcendental form, you assume the mundane form, although you have no such form at all. So he is asking these benedictions in the form of questions. He wants to know few things from the Lord, and that is the benediction he's asking here. And the very first question he's asking is, you have a transcendental form, that your form is spiritual, your form is not material, but you assume a material form also. So what is actually Brahmaji referring here to the Lord? Brahmaji is referring to the Virat Purusha, or the Virat Roop of the Lord, which is when the Lord does this material creation, creates a lot of universes and all that. So those universes have been compared to a body of the Lord, and that body of the Lord, the technical term for that is Virat Purusha. So that is in that context, Brahmaji is asking this question. He wants to clear this doubt that although you are spiritual, your form is spiritual, but you also take a material form. Although your form is not material, you don't have a material form at all. Actually, you are spiritual. But what is this mystery that although you are spiritual, you still have a material form? So that is something which is the doubt of Brahmaji, which is he is referring here to the Supreme Lord. So that is the Brahmaji's first question. So I would request the devotees to kindly keep in their mind what exactly are these questions, because the subject matter of Chatushloki Bhagavatam is not that straightforward. So if you keep these questions in your mind, and when the explanation is there, maybe you can write it somewhere for the time being. And when the explanations are there, you are able to connect the question and the answer very easily. Although I will try to make an attempt that will repeat the question and you don't have to do it, but still might be better if you still keep the question in your mind. So the very first question is about the form. You have a spiritual form, then how do you take a material form? Can you kindly please explain to me? That is the first question. Okay, now the second question. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. And please inform me how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, acceptance, and maintenance by combination and permutation.
By combination and permutation. So this is the Brahmaji's second question. So the first question was about the form. The second question is about the energies. Energies means the Shaktis of the Lord. So the question is how you, by your own self, manifest different energies for annihilation, generation, and maintenance by combination and permutation. By combination and permutation. What does this combination and permutation mean? So before we understand this combination and permutation, we need to understand that Lord has only one energy, but that energy may take different forms. Like for example, we have Prabhupada generally gives this analogy of electricity. So electricity is one energy, but this electricity can be used to do different things. For example, the same electricity can be used in a refrigerator to cool down things. Same electricity in a electrical heater can be used to uh, heat up the room, heat up some food items, etc. The same electrical energy can be used for some mechanical movement. Like for example, you can rotate a fan. The fan can rotate and give you some relief from some heat, like that. So one electrical energy, but different manifestations. One is cooling something, one is heating something, one is maybe some mechanical work or so. So similarly, there is one energy of the Lord, but that energy of the Lord can be used for maybe annihilation, maybe for creation, maybe for maintenance, like that. So there are different energies. So for example, uh, here we can understand that Lord generally uses his energy in two different ways. One is in spiritual energy, uh, that is generally we call it as Yog Maya, and one is material energy, that is what we call it as Mahamaya. Hmm. Or in another context, if we have to define Lord's energy a little more differently, we can call it external energy, which is known as Bahiranga Shakti, or internal energy, which is known as Antaranga Shakti, and then maybe marginal energy, which is known as the Tatastha Shakti. Now, in this Antaranga, Bahiranga, Tatastha, we know that Antaranga and marginal, Antaranga and Tatastha, both are spiritual, but Bahiranga is material energy. So now here the question of Brahmaji is, how are your different energies functioning? So the second question is about the energies of the Lord, and he wants to understand how, my dear Lord, your different types of energies are functioning. That is the second question of Lord Brahma. Okay. Now we go to the third third text of the today's class, item number 28. Yeah, Brahmaji's third question. Okay.
O master of all energies, please tell me philosophically all about them. You play like a spider that covers itself by its own energy, and your determination is infallible.
Hmm. So this third question is about activities of the Lord. Activities. So the first question was about the form. The second question is about the energies. F for form, E for energies. F, E. The third question is about the activities. Now, what is the question about activities? How do you play with your energies? So the previous question was, uh, how your different energies are functioning. So the question was about the energies. But the third question is about how do you play with your energies? Here, if you see in the verse, Brahmaji uses this word called play, krida. You play like a spider. You play like a spider that covers itself by its own energy, and your determination is infallible. So again, the question is the extension of the previous question. The question is that the previous question is how your energies are functioning, and now the third question is how do you play with your energies? How do you play with your energies means how do you act through your energies? So the third question is about the activities. So F, E, and A. So the third question is about the activities of the Lord. How do you play with your energies? Now, in order to ask this question, Brahmaji is giving the analogy of spider. So why the analogy of spider? See, spider is some insect which does a very interesting creation, which is the spider web. And how does the spider creates this spider web? Spider uh, creates this own spider web, and he only maintains this spider web, and then ultimately when he does not need that spider web, he wounds up this web, absorb it within himself, and then he creates maybe some another web, like that. So similarly, the Lord creates this universe, Lord maintains this universe, and similarly at the time of annihilation, he once again wounds up this universe and absorbs the universe within his own body. That is why this analogy of spider is very, very apt. Like the spider creates, maintains, and wounds up the web within himself or by himself independently. Similarly, the Lord also independently creates, independently maintains, and independently annihilates. Uh, he does not need anyone else for this creation, maintenance, and destruction. So the analogy of spider is mainly to highlight the independent nature of the Lord, how independently the Lord creates, maintains, and destroys. Similarly, the spider also independently creates, maintains, and destroys. So, if you have been attending our classes on second canto of Bhagavatam, so you might remember that in the chapter number 5, where there is a conversation between Narad Muni and Brahmaji, the same analogy was given by Narad Muni uh, for Brahmaji, because Narad Muni was asking Brahmaji, how does this creation happens? Are you the independent creator? How do you create? I see you do all this creation, and I'm very much fascinated by this. Uh, like that, Narad Muni was asking questions from Brahmaji about creation. So similar analogy was given by Narad Muni to Brahmaji there also in the same way. Narad Muni was thinking that maybe Brahmaji was doing this creation independently, and hence Narad Muni gave this analogy to Brahmaji. But now Brahmaji is asking, how do you play with your energies? You seem to be playing like a spider. You seem to be playing like a spider. Like spider does it all, maintenance, creation, destruction independently. You also seem to be doing it independently, maintenance, creation, and destruction. So here you can see that uh, 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 Narad Muni is searching for who is this person who is doing this creation independently. Here, Brahmaji is also asking the same question to the Lord, that how you do it independently. So now the Lord might do all these creation, maintenance, and destruction through some agencies. Say, for example, Lord might create through Brahmaji, or Lord might maintain via Lord Vishnu, or the Lord might do the destruction via Lord Shiva. So, but actually, although he does it through different agencies like Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, he might do creation, maintenance, and destruction through different agencies. But ultimately, it is done by the Lord Himself. All these three things. It might appear to ourselves that it is actually done by three different agencies, but ultimately it is done by the Supreme Lord Himself. So again, there is a word called play being used here. You play like a spider. You play like a spider. Again, this is a little graphic description. Brahmaji is comparing the Lord's creation or playing with his energies like a play of a child. So sometimes we might see a child when he starts playing. He might bring things together. He might make few things from all those toys, like when a child play, for example, like Lego toys. I hope you know Lego toys. These are kind of building blocks. So sometimes when you see the child playing with Lego toys or Lego these building blocks, he might bring all these building blocks together. He might join them together, keep them together for some time, enjoy looking at it, how nice my creation is, and etc. etc. And then one fine day he doesn't like it and he want to do something else, and then he once again disassemble all these toys. So Brahmaji is saying that you play like a spider. You are playing like a spider. So that is how he's trying to say that, like a child, when he plays, he brings the articles of his toys together, assemble them, and then disassemble them, and like that. So like that, the analogy of playing has been used here. But there is another line here: your determination is infallible. So although Brahmaji is comparing Lord's activities of playing with his energy like a play, but it is not like a joke. It is not something like mentioned in a light way. It is a serious activity that the Lord does. He does not. Maybe the child is playing just for fun, just for creation, just for enjoyment. But the Lord does not do it like this. The Lord does not do it like randomly, like a child does. Lord does it in a very serious way, in a very determined way. It is not in that sense a child's play. That is why Brahmaji is saying that your determination is infallible. So ultimately, the third question is, how do you act through these energies? Or maybe put in the words of Brahmaji, how do you play with your energies? Like a child is playing, or like a spider plays with the creation of web, destruction of web. How do you play with your energies? So what was the first question? Manish ji, do you remember? What was the first question?
So
Can you
first,
repeat?
the first question was F.
F.
FEA. Yeah.
FEA, correct. So what was
Yes.
F? F is regarding form.
Form. Yes. Regarding the form,
Regarding the
it
form.
was what was the spiritual form and the material form.
So you have a spiritual form. You really your original form is spiritual, but you also exhibit your mundane form. But how come you do it? How are you able to do it? Because your original form is spiritual. That was the first question. And
Yeah.
then what was the second question?
It was related to the activities or energies.
Energies.
A.
Second
Energies.
question was about energies.
Energies. Yeah.
Energies. So what was the second question about energies? How does your energies function?
Function.
How does your energies function? So the first question is about the form. Please tell me about your material and spiritual form. Then the second question is about your how are your various spiritual and material energies function.
Energies.
And what was the third question? Third question is, how do you play with your energies? What are your activities? What are your activities?
Activities. Yeah.
So please remember, I will once again ask. FEA, form, energies, and activities. What are your spiritual and material forms? How does your energies function? And how do you play with your energies, or how do you act through your energies? Okay. So these are the three questions. Okay, now the fourth question. Yes, Prabhu, please ask. Please read.
Please tell me so that I may be taught in the matter by your instructions and may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities without being conditioned by such activities.
Hmm. Now, please tell me so that I may be taught in the manner by your instructions and may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities without being conditioned by such activities. Actually, if you read carefully the 29th verse, there is no question in it. There is no question in it, but there is a concern in it. There is a concern in it, and you can kind of convert this question into a concern, this concern into a question, but that is a different way. That's a different matter. But let me take you one by one to what actually is the content of this verse. So he's saying that he's already asked three questions. Brahmaji already has asked these three questions. So he's saying, please tell me so that I may be taught in the matter by your instructions. So he has already asked these three questions, and he's asking in this verse that please give me the answers to these questions so that I can be instructed properly. Yeah? And after getting instructed properly, may thus act instrumentally to generate living entities. May thus act instrument. Does that word remind anyone of any verse from Bhagavad Gita to you? The word instrument.
Nimitta matreena bhava sabyasachi.
Nimitt matra bhava sabyasachi. So what was that verse regarding Mataji? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, you did a good answer, very nice answer. What was that verse regarding? What does it mean?
It was regarding Krishna is asking Arjuna to become instrument only and fight the war, because the participants of the war, the destiny of the participants have already been decided. The opponents will be killed, and
Correct.
he will just be the instrument in killing them.
So the word instrument means nimitt matra bhava sabyasachi. That was the verse. And the word instrument, what does it actually mean? Becoming instrument in the hands of the Lord. What does it mean?
That is, just follow the instructions of the Lord without what would you say, without if and buts,
Okay.
without placing your mind into it.
Yeah. So okay. So that is okay. So like for example, I have this pen. Hmm? I have this pen, and if I want to write from this pen maybe an essay, I can write the essay. If I want to write from this pen maybe some poem, uh, the pen doesn't protest. Why are you writing poem from me, or why are you writing for an essay from me with me? Or maybe if I want to just do signature, or I just want to do something else, maybe make a picture or make a drawing or etc. The pen doesn't protest. He is following what the master is expecting him to do. So that is something which is that is the spirit of becoming an instrument. So like that, when we learn the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, when we understand the nitty-gritties, the principles of the Krishna consciousness philosophy, we understand that the Lord is actually the master. We are simply the servants of the Lord, and we need to work like an instrument. Now, that does not really mean that we have become like a slave. We don't need to utilize our intelligence, or we don't need to think, or we need to stop thinking. There will be a person who will simply be ordering us, and we simply need to follow the order. No, it is not in that spirit that we are calling it about instrument. The idea about instrument is when we say that it is we are talking about uh, that we don't get attached. We don't get attached to the fruit of the result. We don't get attached to the activity itself, or we don't get attached to the doership mentality. Hmm? Doership mentality. Now let me elaborate that. But before we elaborate on that instrument part, let me first of all cover all the different aspects of this verse. So he's saying that please answer me what I am asking you, so that I may thus act instrumentally. I may thus act instrumentally, and I will elaborate on this instrument part. Little elaboration I've already done, but I will elaborate it little later. But then, to generate living entities. So why did Brahma wanted to learn all this? So he's telling what was his service in this verse: to generate living entities, to create the jivas. Now, what does creating of jivas mean here? Can anyone make a guess here? What does creating of jivas mean here? Does it
Earlier,
mean does it mean
earlier
creating the
it was,
souls? Does it mean creating the souls?
I think it is about assigning the roles to the souls, because souls have already been created by the Lord.
Hmm. Actually, the souls are ajanma. There is no creation of the souls. The souls are eternal. They are unborn, and they are eternal. So they are always there. Natvevaham jatunasam. That is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, where it says, where Lord Krishna says that there was never a time when I did not exist, or you did not exist, or these king did not exist. So that is how he mentioned that. So that means that the souls are always there. But when he's saying that generate living entities, it means giving the bodies to the living entities. So after the pralaya, the living entities are already there in the body of the Lord. But when the creation happens, the living entities are already having their past karma from the previous creation. But what does Brahmaji do? Brahmaji award them the bodies according to their past karma. And those bodies are created by Brahmaji. So Brahmaji had this service of doing the creation. Creation means giving the bodies to the various living entities. And then again he's saying without being conditioned by such activities, without being conditioned by such activities. Now here these two things are related. Thus act instrumentally and without being conditioned by such activities. So what does it mean? What does it mean? So Brahmaji has a service, Brahmaji has an activity. Now the question is, when we do some activity in our own lives, maybe we are doing some, maybe building a house, or maybe we are solving some problem for somebody, maybe we are doing maybe some other activity and so on. So like Brahmaji had this service of creating the living entities, we also as devotees or maybe as living beings have various activities to do. Like maybe we may have to study for our exam, maybe we have to pass an exam, maybe we have to work on a project, we may have to fight an election, etc., etc. So there are so many activities. Now when we do some activity, what happens? Generally, in from Bhagavad Gita, we understand that when we do some activity, if we don't do this activity in a particular way, in a particular consciousness, then we get bound by that activity. Karma bandhana. Have you heard that word in Bhagavad Gita? Karma bandhana. Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, have you heard that word?
Yes.
So
Yes.
how does a living entity get bound with karma bandhana?
By
When
doing
he
fruitive actions like either the punya karmas or the pap karmas, both of them comes with a phala. So that causes karma bandhana.
So karma bandhana, how does the phala becomes karma bandhana?
You will be awarded with some rewards or punishments for punyas,
Okay,
for punya
but
karmas,
how does
some
it? How
rewards.
does it? How does it? How does it bandhana? How does it become
Repeated birth
bandhana?
and death. Repeated birth and death.
Now, if I do some activity, is it necessary that I will be bound by that activity or by the fruits of that activity? Maybe I go to the office and I earn some salary. So simply I'm earning some salary or I'm doing some activity in my office and getting some salary, the fruit of my activity. I will be bound by that fruit.
Not really. If one offers the fruit for the service of the Lord, then it will not cause bandhana. But if we kind of utilize that phala for our gratification, that will cause the bandhana.
Okay, so I think that was a good answer. Okay, let me put that into perspective, maybe a little more. If I become attached to the fruit, see, if I will offer the fruit to the Lord, that means I have to become detached to the fruit, isn't it? Before I make the offering of the fruit to someone or for some other purpose, or do it in a selfless way, I first of all have to become detached, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
So ultimately, the point is, how do we become attached? How do we become bound by a fruit? We become bound by the fruit because we are attached to the fruit.
Expectation.
We are sorry, Prabhu.
We are expecting the fruit.
We are attached to the fruit. That is why expecting the fruit means we are attached to the fruit.
Yeah.
Attached to the fruit means if the fruit doesn't, if the fruit doesn't come as per our expectation, then we might become very sad or we might become very dejected. And if the fruit come to our expectation, we might become very proud or we might become overconfident and so on, like that. That is called becoming attached to the fruit. So that is what Brahmaji is saying, without being conditioned by such activities, without being conditioned by such activities. So the point is, if we do an activity where we don't become attached to the activity or the fruit of the activity or the doership mentality in the activity, so this attachment can come in three ways. Attachment to the activity, or whenever we do this activity, the attachment can in three ways. One attachment can come to the fruit of the activity. The second attachment can come to the activity itself. And the third attachment can come by the doership mentality. Doership mentality. Say, for example, I have done some activities and I kind of become detached to the fruit of the activity. That is one part. But I may be detached to the fruit, I may still be attached to the activity. Activity means, for example, if I am working as a teacher, and as a teacher, I am getting some fruit out of it, out of that activity. So I may become detached to the fruit. That is one level of detachment. But I may not be detached to the activity itself. I may still be attached to the activity of teaching. That is the second level of attachment. And if even if I become detached to the activity of teaching, the third level is I become attached to the doership mentality. Doership mentality means I did it. It was because of me this happened. That is the doership mentality. So this
Isn't
attachment,
getting attached to the activity itself indirectly getting attached to the result of the activity?
no, attached to the activity means that say you like the work of teaching a lot.
Yeah.
So that is the attachment to the activity. If say, for example, if we request you that, okay, you kindly leave this teaching of activity of teaching, you probably kindly get engaged, maybe fundraising or maybe crowd management. You might say that I don't feel comfortable doing it. I don't
Mhm.
like doing it. I like
Okay.
doing teaching only.
Okay. So when you are assigned a service, but you refuse to do.
You refuse to that service.
Okay.
So that is
Okay.
something like attached to the activity
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then when you do the activity, maybe you are not attached to the activity, but if the activity becomes successful, you think that no, I did this activity, that is why this happened. That is the doership. That is the attachment to the doership. Karta bhav. So these are the three levels of attachments when we do some activity. Hmm. Attached to the fruits, attached to the activity, and attached to the doership. And when the person is acting instrumentally, nimitta matra bhava savyasachin. So what is this nimitta matra? Nimitta matra means the person is acting in a way where he is neither attached to the fruit, nor to the activity, and nor to the doership mentality. If he is doing his activity in this consciousness, then it is actually understood that he is acting as an instrument. uh, as an instrument. It does not mean that he has to do that activity without utilizing his intelligence and so on, but he need to understand that even if he's utilizing his intelligence and the fruit is coming as a success, he need to understand that this intelligence also he has received from the Lord. The fruit only he has achieved because the Lord has approved that success. That is what actually means acting instrumentally. That is the nimitta matra bhav sabyasachi. So now Brahmaji in this fourth question, actually it is not a question, it is a concern. He has been entrusted with a service by the Lord of service of creation. So Brahmaji is going to engage himself in the service of creation. Now, while engaging himself in the service of creation, he is putting up this concern before the Lord that he does not get bound by this activity. So kindly help him, bless him, so that he can do this activity without becoming conditioned by these activities. So I hope, do you understand this question or concerned by Lord Brahma?
Yes.
So
Clearly.
that is the fourth question oblique concern. If you want to frame this, if you want to frame this as a question, you can say that how can I do this activity so that I don't get bound by this activity? I don't get bound by this activity. I don't get this false pride within myself like that.
Now I understand why
Hmm.
you said that the question is more of a benediction rather than a question.
Yeah. Now it is a, yeah, that is how he's actually asking for a benediction. He's asking the Lord that I will do this service for you, my dear Lord. But when I will do this service, there will be some fruit. I will do this activity. And there might be some possibility that I may think that I am the doer of this activity. Actually, he is not the doer. How Brahmaji is not the doer? Lord did all this creation. Lord created all these universes. Lord gave birth to Lord Brahma. Lord only gave this intelligence to Lord Brahma. Lord gave all this inspiration to Lord Brahma. Do tapa, tapa. From where this inspiration came? This inspiration came from the Lord only. And now when Brahmaji did that tapa, Lord became pleased with Brahma. Brahma came in front of the Lord and he understood that now he has to do this service of creation. And if he starts to think that he is doing it creation on his own, independently of the Lord, that is where he will get bound. So Brahmaji cannot think about it that he is the doer, because everything actually has been provided by the Lord. Everything has been arranged by the Lord. Lord simply has to act as an instrument. Lord Brahma simply has to act as an instrument in the plan, in the arrangement of the Lord. That is what is being mentioned in this verse. I hope that is clear.
So that means, Prabhu, he is completely following the instructions from the Lord, correct? So
Correct,
definitely
correct.
he will be not bound by the activities
Right.
indirectly.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, also maybe this is a good point to discuss a little difference between Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Because now you have understood that how this bondage comes. In Karma Yoga, generally when we do the activity, we have the independence of doing the activity. When we are doing the activity, it is not necessary that we are thinking about the Lord. We are doing it as per our own sweet will, as per our own liking, and so on. Independently we are doing it. But once the fruit comes, we offer the part of the fruit or maybe the complete fruit for some other purpose, and that is where at that point of time it becomes yoga. So Karma Yoga. So in the Karma Yoga, the activity is done first and then the surrender comes, then the submission comes. But in Bhakti Yoga, first of all we surrender to the Guru, we surrender to our spiritual master, and then we start doing the activity. Now the spiritual master requires us to do some things, few things. According to his direction, we are engaged in some services. So in Bhakti Yoga, the surrender happens first. Once the surrender is already there, then there is no independence left. You need to now act as per the guidance of the spiritual master. And whatever now we do after the surrender is actually not subject to any reactionary work, because it is already done in the mood of surrender. So I hope you understand the difference between Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga with this discussion. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Maybe we will bring it later on also when such discussion happens. But for the time being, I hope that concept of Karma Yoga versus Bhakti Yoga is clear. But now, time for the next recitation, and we'll invite Charumati Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Please
Shall I
read.
read, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes.
Oh my Lord, the unborn. Sorry, Brahma's fourth question. Oh my Lord, the unborn, you have shaken hands with me just as a friend does with a friend, as if equal in position. I shall be engaged in the creation of different types of living entities, and I shall be occupied in your service. I shall have no perturbation, but I pray that all this may not give rise to pride, as if I were the supreme.
So you see the 30th verse actually is the extension of the previous 29th verse. So you can say that 29th and 30 together makes the fourth question oblique concern. So it is in continuation with the 29th verse, and a very similar, almost the extension of the previous verse, kind of elaborating on the verse number 29. Brahmaji is now mentioning this. Oh my Lord, the unborn. So we will bifurcate this verse. We will divide this verse in different parts and then analyze each and every part. You have shaken hands with me just as a friend does with a friend, as if equal in position. So here, from the previous class, where when the Lord give darshan to Brahmaji, he holds Brahmaji's hands. He shakes hands, like in the previous verse. In the previous class, we discussed that Brahma shakes hand with the Lord. But I clarified also in the previous class that it was not something like two equals are shaking hands with each other, like in generally we see in the material world. It is not like that. It is more like the Lord is extending his hand in a very friendly way to Lord Brahma. But although the Lord is holding Lord Brahma's hand in a very friendly way, and Brahmaji also is behaving with the Lord like a friend, but that does not mean they are at an equal platform. Although they are friends, although they are kind of behaving as in a friendly manner, but ultimately we need to understand that Lord Brahma is in the position of a servant, as a servitor, as a servitor, but in a mood of a friend of the Lord, in a mood of the friend of the Lord. So, like for example, we have Arjuna and Lord Krishna. They would engage with each other as friends, but ultimately Arjuna is like a servant of the Lord. So, servant of the Lord, but in a friendly humor, in a friendly gesture. So that is what it means. Uh, you have shaken hands with me just as a friend does with a friend, as if equal in position. But here Prabhupada also try to clarify this point that although Lord Brahma is behaving like a friend, but actually he's a servant. And Prabhupada gives an elaborate explanation there that we might be in relation with the Lord as a friend, as a mother, as a parent, as a lover, uh, but ultimately we are servant of the Lord. We are doing it all this as a service to the Lord, like that. Even if we are in a mood of a parent, but still as a transcendental servitor. So Brahmaji, although a friend, but have not forgotten that he is also a servant here. So Prabhupada clarifies this point also by giving this example of from Ramayana. Like Hanumanji crossed the ocean. He jumped the ocean and crossed the ocean. But Lord Ramchandra, in order to cross the ocean, had to construct a bridge. So, from one mundane perspective, it might seem that Hanumanji was more powerful than the Lord. Hanumanji could cross over the ocean simply by jumping. But Lord Ramchandra, if he wanted to cross the ocean, he had to construct a bridge. So it might seem that Lord's power were less compared to the servant's power, but it is not like that. Lord actually empowers his devotees just to glorify his devotees, just to glorify his devotees. So that is something which we need to understand. Although the servant is there, he might seem that Brahmaji might seem here that he is doing all the creation and Lord is doing nothing, but does not mean that Lord cannot do it or Lord is less powerful. That is not the message here. So that is something which we need to say, that you have shaken hands with me just as a friend does with a friend, as if equal in position. So that is the explanation of that. Now, I shall be engaged in the creation of different type of living entities, and I shall be occupied in your service. I shall have no perturbation, but I pray that all this may not give rise to pride. So Brahmaji is expressing this concern. He is very careful. He's saying that I am engaging in this activity, in this service that you have entrusted upon me, but I pray that it does not give rise to pride. So that is what Brahmaji is explaining here. That is how he is expressing his concern here. Now, how this pride comes, how this doership mentality comes, because we forget in normal day-to-day living, we forget that whatever success we are achieving in our life, it is actually not only because of our own action, it is actually because of many other faculties are also involved in that action. Say for example, I will give you one joke by giving one instance of one joke that happened. There was a debate going on between a scientist and a god. There was a debate going on between a scientist and God. Scientist was saying that, hey God, I can make a better world than you. whatever creation you have done is something full of flaws. I can do it much better than you. So God said, no problem, you can try it out. Then the scientist starts to extend his hand and starts to uh, take the sand around him and start to do some creation. He lifts some sand and starts to do this creation. Then the Lord intervenes. The God intervenes. God says, wait a minute, my dear scientist. If you want to do this creation, if you want to do a creation, kindly get your own sand. Don't use this sand because actually this sand is created by me. So with this small joke, the point I wanted to make is that many times we become very proud that we have created such a big building, we have done this project, etc., etc. But ultimately we forget that whatever we are doing actually cannot happen unless and until we are utilizing these natural resources. And these natural resources have not been created by us. These are all created by the Lord. So for making a building, we need iron, we need sand, we need cement, we need water, we need intelligence to create that building. Now, all these things actually have come from the Supreme Lord Himself. It has been given by the Supreme Lord to us. So how can we become proud? How can we say that it is my building? Can we say that it is my building? We cannot, because many things that we are utilizing in creating of this building actually has come from the Lord. So the actually nothing has come from us. Even our intelligence is also God given. So like that, similarly here also Lord did this primary creation, provided the ingredients, knowledge to Brahma, inspiration to Brahma. So Brahmaji cannot think that he is the doer. So similarly, that should be the mood of any devotees of the Lord. That is how, if we think that, we will not become controlled by the pride. We can actually always be in a very humble position. So that is what Brahmaji is praying to the Lord, that I may do this creation, do this service entrusted upon me by you, but let this not give rise to pride, as if I were the supreme. So I hope this part is very clear to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. So now we go to the now we have listed all these questions, the 4 questions. So this slide gives you overview of all the 4 questions. So before I show you this slide, can Vrindavaneshwari Mataji revise all these 4 questions without looking at any reference? Is it ingrained in your mind?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
The first question was Brahmaji asked, why have you assumed a mundane form although you have got a transcendental form?
Hmm.
The second question he asked was about his energies. How do you kind of like about the energies, like you explain through
How
example.
your energies function.
Yeah. How do your energies function? The third was about FEA. Yeah, activities. What are your activities? And the concern was how, please let me
No.
be
First of
the
all, the third one.
instrument.
What are your activities means? How do you play with your energies?
Yeah, how do you play with your energies? That is, what are your activities? And then he expressed his concern that let me be your instrument, and I may act through you and not by you. Like I don't want to.
So you can form it as a question, that how should I act so that
Yeah.
I do not overcome by pride?
Yes.
Or how can I overcome my pride when I do this activity? Something like that. Maybe you can call it a question.
Yes.
So okay, now we go to Manish ji. Manish ji, can you revise these 4 questions for all of us?
Yes, Prabhu. So again, we started with FEA, that is a short form for that. The first one was the form of the Lord, whether it is whether it is a mundane form or even he is a spiritual. Why he is
your
taking
form
a
is
mundane form.
spiritual. Your form is spiritual. How can then I understand you have also a mundane form?
Mundane form.
Yeah. Then the second question is about the FEE.
Energies.
Okay. Energies.
About the
What is the
energies.
question? What is the question?
So how are you functioning your energies? You have all
How
these
do you
internal
function with your
function
energies?
your energies. Yes.
Or how your energies function? How your
Function.
various energies function? Okay. The third question.
Third one was about how are you instrumental about your activities, or how do you plan your activities?
How do you play with your energies?
How you play with your energies?
How do you play with your energies? So remember that Lego toy example. So how do you play with your energies? How do you play with your toys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
First, second, third, and the fourth one is
Fourth one is that even means how should I not get, how should I overcome my pride? Yeah.
How can I protect myself from getting entangled with this doership mentality?
Yeah.
Or pride or doership mentality, or maybe get bound by this doership mentality, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Now we read the question. So Charumati Mataji, would you like to read question 1?
Yes, Prabhu. Please tell me about your material and spiritual forms.
Okay. Now, so this is F, forms. This is all about forms. Now, this question was asked by Brahmaji in this chapter in as 26th verse. But now also I would like to mention this also was the question of Parikshit Maharaj in the 8th chapter. So Parikshit Maharaj in the 8th chapter had asked from verse number 8 till verse number 11 about the material and spiritual form of the Lord, like that. So this question by Brahma is very similar to Parikshit's question in previous chapter. So that is one point I want to mention. Okay. Second question, Madhaji, please read.
How are the different energies of the Lord working?
Okay. So this is E, energies. Okay. How it is working? This is the ask in the 27th verse. Okay. Question number 3.
How the Lord carries out his pastimes in relation to his energies.
Or how do you play with your energies? So activities. So again, this was the question also asked by Parikshit Maharaj in the previous chapter, 23rd verse. This was the question in the 23rd verse by Parikshit Maharaj. And why I'm mentioning this to you is because the title of the chapter 9 is answering by citing Lord's version. So actually, when this conversation between Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu is going on, by citing this conversation, Parikshit Maharaj is answering Parikshit Maharaj these questions which were asked in the chapter number 8. Okay. Now question number 4.
Please give guidance to carry out service without pride and bondage.
Without pride and bondage. Okay. Now all of these questions are answered in one shloka each, and that is the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So question number 1 is answered in 33, verse number 33. Question number 2 is answered in verse number 34. Question number 3 is answered in verse number 35. And question number 4 is answered in verse number 36. Okay. Now, how do you remember these questions? So remember F for form, E for energies, A for activities, and P for pride. F, E, A, P. So these are 4 questions. F means what are your, please tell me about your material and spiritual energies. How does your energies function? How do you play with your energies? And how should I act so that I don't get entangled with pride and bondage? These are the 4 questions. So you kindly do some meditation on these 4 questions so that these questions are very clearly engraved in your mind, so that when we discuss them, you can actually easily recall the question and easily relate with the discussion. Okay. We will not discuss the answers right now. We will discuss these answers once we have our discussion on the Chatushloki Shloka Bhagavatam completed. That's where we will discuss these answers. Okay, now read the 31st one, Mataji.
The personality of Godhead said, knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me, you may take it up carefully.
So verse number 31 actually is the prelude, is the prelude to Chatushloki Bhagavatam. What does prelude means? Prelude means that it kind of introduces the subject. So what typically we do in the introduction? Charumati Mataji, what does we do in the introduction? Can you throw some light? When you read a book, you come across the introduction in the book, right? Many times when we read a book, there is some introduction. So what happens in the introduction?
In an introduction, we try to introduce the characters, or we try to give the background, or we try to we just try to give a crux of whatever is going to be discussed in the book. That's what I can.
Very good, very good. So in the introduction, generally what is going to be discussed in the book, generally the author gives a high level overview and the picture in that introduction. So similarly in verse number 31, a high level introduction of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam, 4 seed verses that the Lord spoke to Brahmaji as Chatushloki Bhagavatam has been mentioned. So personality of Godhead said. So these are spoken by personality of Godhead, by Lord Vishnu. So I have changed the picture also. If you can see here, Brahmaji was speaking these verses. I have given the picture of Brahmaji, but now in these 31st verse, we see that Lord has started to give answer. So Lord is speaking this verse. Knowledge about me as described in the scriptures is very confidential, and it has to be realized in conjunction with devotional service. The necessary paraphernalia for that process is being explained by me. You may take it up carefully. So you can say that it is in short, the Chatushloki Bhagavatam has been explained here by the Supreme Lord. So you will see that different subject matter that are discussed in each sloka of the Chatushloki Bhagavatam are taken up here. So we will not go literally into the detail of all these texts that we are studying, but we will try to kind of understand this verse by looking at the Sanskrit of the verse. So please recite the Sanskrit together with me, Charumati Mataji. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha.
Jnanam Paramaguhyam me.
Jnanam Paramaguhyam me.
Yad Vijnana Samanvitam.
Yad Vijnana Samanvitam.
Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha.
Sarahasyam Tadangam Cha.
Grahana Gaditam Maya.
Grahana Gaditam Maya.
So Grahana means please accept. Gaditam Maya means as I'm explaining it to you. So Grahana, please accept as I'm explaining it to you. So this is the bottom line. But what is being explained in this verse is being mentioned in the first 3 lines. And you see there, I have kind of color coded here. Jnanam, Vijnana, Sarahasyam, and Tad Angam. So these are 4 different words that I have color coded. But what does it mean? Let us first of all look at it line by line. Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me. Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me means this Gyan, this knowledge that I am going to give you is Param Guhyam. Param Guhyam means most confidential. Most confidential. Like if you read Bhagavad Gita, in Bhagavad Gita also the Lord provides this knowledge and classifies the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita in 3 categories. Guhya, Guhya Tara, and Guhya Tama. Guhya means knowledge of the self. Guhya Tara means the knowledge of the Lord. And Guhya Tama means the process by which that you can acquire this knowledge. So Guhya Tara, and Guhya Tama. Confidential, more confidential, and most confidential. So Lord is saying that whatever I am going to tell you now is, it is Param Guhya. Param Guhya means most confidential. The knowledge about me is most confidential. Jnanam Parama Guhyam Me. So, and Yad Vijnana Samanvitam. So this, I'm not only going to give you this knowledge, but this knowledge, I'm also going to give you the realization of this knowledge. How to realize this knowledge. Yad Vijnanam Samanvitam. And then Sarhasyam Tadangam Cha. Sarhasyam means secret. Sarhasyam means mystery, secret, or confidential. So this Sarhasyam actually is the loving devotional service of the Lord. The prema, the prema of the Lord. Ultimately, that is the goal of doing this bhakti of the Lord. That is the prema of the Lord, prema bhakti. So Saharhasyam, that is the prema. And Tad Angam actually refers to the limbs. How are you going to achieve this Sarhasyam? How are you going to achieve this objective? That is called Tad Angam. Tad Angam actually means the paraphernalia or by the means. So Jnanam here refers to the personal form of the Lord. So you remember the first question? The first question was about Charumati form. So similarly, the Jnanam. Now you see the each of these words I have highlighted with different colors. So Jnanam part is answered in Chatushloki 1. Vijnanam is answered in Chatushloki 2. Sarhasyam is answered in Chatushloki 3, and Tadangam is answered in Chatushloki 4. So Jnanam is all about the personal form of the Lord, which is the most confidential. So there's a lot of debate goes on between the transcendentalist or the spiritualist about the form of the Lord. Is it impersonal? Is it personal? Etc. etc. But as part of the answer of the first question asked by Brahmaji, Lord says Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me. And Jnanam Paramaguhyam Me means he will answer this Jnanam is actually about the form of the Lord. And that is the most confidential. The impersonal feature is the less confidential part, but the most confidential part is the personal form of the Lord. And that he will answer as part of the Chatushloki 1 about the form of the Lord. Then Vijnana. Yad Vijnana Samanvitam. How do you realize this form? How do you realize? So that realization of this form is the part of the answer of the second Chatushloki. So that was about the energies of the Lord. So when you will hear that answer about the energies of the Lord, you will understand that how this form of the Lord has to be realized. So it is about the realization of this knowledge, which is available in the scriptures, and it cannot be understood unless the Lord has his kripa, has his mercy upon the sadhaka. So we know the knowledge of the scripture, but we can realize the knowledge of the scripture only by the mercy of the Lord. That is why the Jnanam becomes Vijnanam only by the mercy of the Lord. And that is something which you will learn from the Chatushloki Bhagavatam number 2. And then in the Chatushloki number 3, that is Sarhasyam. Sarhasyam means after you do that, have that realization, what actually do you achieve? You achieve the love of the God, love of the Lord, prema bhakti. That is the Sarhasyam. So Sarhasyam actually means mysterious, secret, confidential, and that mysterious goal is prema bhakti. That is answered in Chatushloki number 3, verse number 35. And Tad Angam. How do you achieve this prema bhakti? That is by doing the various limbs of the bhakti. Tad Angam. That is actually the sadhana bhakti. What is the paraphernalia? What is the means? That is the sadhana bhakti. Tad Angam. So if you have read this Bhaktir Samrat Sindhu, this book, Bhaktir Samrat Sindhu, in that book, Srila Rupa Goswami elaborates the 64 limbs of bhakti. And among those 64 limbs of bhakti, 5 most important limbs have been highlighted in the end. So can somebody elaborate what are the 5 most important limbs of bhakti? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, can you elaborate?
Probably I remember a few only, but
No
I'll
problem.
try.
You start. Maybe others may
So
fill up.
one is Dham Vas, Guru, one is
Bhagavad Shravan,
Bhagavad Shravanam, then
Naam Kirtan,
Naam Japa, I was trying to tell you.
Devotee Association.
Devotee Association and Prasadam, I think. Prasadam.
Devotee Bhagavad Shravan, Naam Sankirtan.
Visiting holy places, Prabhu.
Visiting holy places. I think she already
that's
did
okay.
visiting, but sorry. Okay,
DT
the point DT worship, Archa Vigraha,
Deity
Archa,
worship, yes,
DT
deity
worship,
worship.
correct. Yeah.
Correct.
So the 5 limbs are there. So that is Tad Angam. Angam means the limbs. So 64 limbs, 5 most important. Shravan, Kirtan, visiting holy places, associating with devotees, and DT worship. Like that. So, and Grahana Gaditam Maya. Like that. So 4 topics. So verse number 31 is like a prelude, is like an introduction. And it's in this introduction, all the 4 subject matters that are going to discuss as Chatushloki Bhagavatam are mentioned here. Jnanam means Jnanam, knowledge of the form. Vijnana means how you can realize this knowledge. Only you can realize this knowledge only when you have grace of the Lord. Once you realize this knowledge, what is the goal that you achieve? That is the love of the Lord. And how do you achieve that? How do you go to that destination? That is by doing sadhana bhakti, by doing performing the angam of those various bhakti. That is sadhana bhakti, like that. Okay, so this is the 4 topics. Now, this 31st verse can also be understood in another way in terms of sambandha, abhidaya, and prayojan. So, what is sambandha? What is sambandha? Can anyone explain? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji, what does sambandha jnana means?
Like, what is my relation to the
With
Lord?
with the Lord.
With the
That is
Lord.
sambandha jnana. And what is abhidaya?
The process of
The
reaching
process.
out,
The process. And what is the prayojana?
the goal.
The goal. So, if you see, these Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses have been all discussed not only in Srimad Bhagavatam, but they also have been part of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about the activities of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It has been written by Krishna Kavidas Goswami. So, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also explained in detail about the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. And this is the verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter number 25, verse number 102. What does it say? So Charumati Mataji, can you please repeat after me? Bhagavatera
Prabhuji.
sambandha abhideya prayojana
Bhagavatera sambandha abhidaya prayojana
chatushloki te prakata tarakariyache lakshana.
chatusloki te prakata tarakariya che lakshana.
Thank you. Now please read this. Read one.
The essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, our relationship with the Supreme Lord, our activities in that connection, and the goal of life is manifest in the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam known as the Chatushloki. Everything is explained in those verses.
So again in these verses, all 3 aspects of Vedic knowledge, Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means what is our relationship with the Lord. Abhideya means what are we supposed to do, what activities are we supposed to do in order to realize that relationship. And Prayojana means once we establish that relationship in full glory, what does it mean? What do we achieve? What do we achieve? So we achieve the prem of the Lord, the love of the Lord. So the ultimate objective of bhakti. What is the ultimate objective of bhakti? Achieving the Lord or achieving the love of the Lord? Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. Love of the Lord. So Preeti is the ultimate objective. Not attaining the Lord, but love of the Lord is our goal. So that is something important point. Now, once again, we will now look at this verse from the objective of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. 3 tattvas. So you see here, Jnanam and Vijnana. This is actually the Sambandha part. So Chatushloki 1 and Chatushloki 2 talks about the Sambandha aspect. So all about what is the form of the Lord, what are the activities of the Lord, what are the various other qualities of the Lord. All this is actually talking about the Sambandha Gyan. And this Sambandha Gyan is talked about in the first 2 Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses. But in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela also, this has been elaborated by Prabhupada in the purports. And if you want to read, these purports are 110 to 119 in the 25th chapter. That is the Sambandha Gyan. Then Tad Angam is the Abhideya, the Sadhana Bhakti. This is explained in the 4th Chatushloki Bhagavatam verse. And in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is elaborated by Prabhupada in verse number 120 till 123. And then Prayojana. Prayojana means what is the objective, and that is Prema Bhakti. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the 3rd Chatushloki verse, but in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will find that these are elaborated in verse number 124 to 127. So Prabhupada ji in Srimad Bhagavatam has given elaborate commentaries, and besides in Srimad Bhagavatam, these are verses also mentioned by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in various conversations in Chaitanya Charitamrita. One conversation happened in Madhya Leela, and in Madhya Leela I have given you the verse numbers here where this conversation has happened. But apart from Madhya Leela, this has also taken up by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Antya Leela or sorry Adi Leela, where in chapter number 1 from verse number 51 to 56, these verses of Chatushloki Bhagavatam have been mentioned as it is. Like for example, verse number 31 to 36 in chapter 9. Similarly, these are mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi Leela, verse number 51 to 56. And the purport that Prabhupada has given also covers these description of these verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi Leela. So you see these verses are explained in the Bhagavatam commentaries of Prabhupada here. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Leela, in Chaitanya Charitamrita in Adi Leela, and besides that, these are also taken up by Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas. So there are different places where Jiva Goswami has mentioned these verses in order to explain his points in the Sandarbhas also. So what we are going to do in the next class, we are going to summarize these Chatushloki Bhagavatam according to not only from Prabhupada commentaries, we will also take it up from the commentaries he has given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also we'll try to take up some points from the Sandarbhas. So that is why our next class we are going to dedicate only on the 4 Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses. Okay. Now kindly read this and then we will conclude the class today.
All of me, namely my actual eternal form and my transcendental existence, color, qualities, and activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization out of my causeless mercy.
Now here, these verses is being spoken by the Lord himself. And here he's saying that all of me, namely my actual eternal form, my transcendental existence, color, qualities, activities, let all be awakened within you by factual realization. So unless the Lord gives his own kripa, we cannot really understand the Lord. So in bhakti, whatever right now we are doing, it is sadhana bhakti. Actually, the bhakti is there in our heart, but that is dormant. And when we are doing this sadhana bhakti, we are trying to uncover that bhakti which is already there within our heart, that bhava, that love of God that is already there within our heart. But that bhava only gets awakened when the Lord is merciful on us. And that is rare. Sudurlabha. If you read our Bhagavad Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu classes, if you attend those, you will understand that Rupa Goswami has given various characteristics of pure devotional service. And Sudurlabha is the 5th characteristics of the devotional pure Uttama Bhakti. And that is only achieved at the level of Bhava and Prema, not before that, not at the Sadhana Bhakti level. So the Lord is saying that Lord is giving his blessings to Brahmaji in this verse. Be blessed. And secret to the know the Lord is his mercy. And how do we achieve that mercy? When we endeavor. When we do sadhana bhakti, we endeavor sincerely, then only the Lord gives this secret knowledge, most confidential knowledge about his form, about his existence, about his color, qualities, etc. Then only he reveals it to us. And Prabhupada in the purports gives this analogy that a father may have many children, but he gives his confidential knowledge about his business, about his activities, only to that son who is very dear to him, to whom on him he can trust. Similarly, the Lord only gives his confidential knowledge or most confidential knowledge about his form, about his activities, etc., only to his dear devotee. And Brahmaji here, because he has done a lot of penance, has become that dear devotee and is about to receive that knowledge from the Supreme Lord. So Lord is pleased with Brahma, so he will reveal this knowledge to him in the Chatushloki Bhagavatam 33, 34, 35, and 36 of the 9th chapter, 2nd canto. So with that, we bring this class to conclusion. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Any comments, questions you might have, we can discuss now. For the next class, we have Mangala Charan service for Charumati Mataji. We have summary service for Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. So in case you have any questions, we can discuss it now. Thank you. Did the class make sense? I understand the class was difficult.
Yes,
So,
Prabhuji.
okay. Do you remember the questions? F, E, A, and P.
Yes.
F for form, E for energies,
E for
A for
yes.
activities, and P for pride.
Pride.
Form, what is the question? Can you please explain to me what are your spiritual and material forms? Energy means how does your energies function? Activities means how do you play with your energies? And P, how should I act so that I don't get entangled with pride? So remember these 4 questions and we will elaborate upon the answers as Chatushloki Bhagavatam in the next class.
So
But
I
any
have a
questions?
question.
Yes.
I have a question here. Like in the question number 3, Brahmaji is asking.
Sorry, Mataji, we lost you.
Yeah. So the third question is how the Lord carries out his pastimes in relation to energies. Is there a hint of like the different avatars of Krishna that we have earlier discussed? The Leela avatars, the Purusha avatars. This is how he acts through his energies.
Well,
Am
the
I right in
answer
understanding?
to the activities, it is actually part of Chatushloki Bhagavatam number 3. And now this is something which is more about the vision in the Prema Bhakti. How does the Lord act in the relation to his energies? So he's saying that I myself exist within everything created and at the same time I am outside of everything. That is the answer he gives in Chatushloki number 3. So now why I'm saying is that we will elaborate in the next class, because you need to understand these verses first of all, and then you will be able to relate it to the question.
Okay.
The Chatushloki Bhagavatam verses are not straightforward. They are kind of little cryptic.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
The class was very engaging.
Okay. So yeah, because so far we are only giving you the introduction of these discussions, and we will discuss, elaborate in the next class. But I'm glad that you are able to relate to the background or the introduction part. Okay, I see Seema Mataji also joining us. Is the same Seema Saxena ji from Jaipur?
Namaskar.
Namaskar Mataji. Namaskar ji. Namaskar.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope it was some good use for you. Did you understood it? Because I guess you have not been attending the previous classes. I'm not sure whether you are looking at the recordings or not, but just to get your feedback, how was it?
It was very good. Vandana had been giving me lectures before, so I have a bit of knowledge about this chapter.
Okay.
So it was good.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, then any other question or any other comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. Yeah.
Excellent class, and one very significant point that I picked up was the difference between devotional service and
Karma
the
yoga.
correct part. I think the surrender part makes all the difference. The kripa part makes all the difference
Correct, correct.
in the school. So I
So
was
here,
about this question, but you, without even you sensed it, perhaps some sort of connect. I don't know. I was about to speak. So really,
yeah, what you can do is you can also ask this question in our question answer portal.
right.
I will try to create an elaborate answer on that. So you can post that question in the question answer portal, and I will prepare some small article. It might take me some time, maybe a couple of days to compile all the points, but we'll try to answer the difference between bhakti yoga and karma yoga. An important philosophical point which we need to understand.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Any other point?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, whatever sadhana we do, unless until we have mercy of the Lord, you can't get the complete thing in realization.
Yeah, you will not. Because right now, whatever we are understanding is only theoretical knowledge.
Yeah.
But what happens is when we talk about realized knowledge, what do we mean? Say example of Narad Muni.
Yeah.
So Narad Muni, if you remember in the first canto, Narad Muni, when his mother passed away and he had this association with the Bhakti Vedantis, he was traveling all across the jungles and various parts of the country, and then ultimately he reached to a place where there was complete peace. There was a tree, there was some lake. He drank water from the lake, and then he sat down under the tree and did this meditation, and then he got the vision of the Lord in his heart. He got the vision of the Lord in his heart. That is the Bhava Bhakti stage.
Yes.
So Bhava Bhakti stage means the Lord gives you darshan. You can actually see the Lord face to face. So that is what we are calling about the realized knowledge here. Or unless and until, and that does not happen unless and until the Lord is merciful upon us. That is the point. You understand, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. That actually what it means, realization, realized knowledge. Okay, then we conclude. Any other comment or?
इसको तो जैसे थोड़ा तो प्रेस करके सक करती है, वो तो इसको करना पड़ेगा.
Okay, then thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Connect once again in the next class. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.